Submit this to your own approval. A bubble-headed booby by the name of R. Sterling, discussing his favorite Season 3 episodes of The Twilight Zone. And number 5 on the list, The Shelter, which originally aired on September 29th, 1961. Directed by Lamont Johnson, who would go on to direct 7 additional episodes, including Kick the Can and Nothing in the Dark, The Shelter tells the story of exactly that, a fallout shelter built by the friendly neighborhood doctor. During his birthday party, they get word that unidentified objects have been spotted approaching America. Of course, they believe it to be nuclear attack, and well, let's just say it spoils the mood of the party a wee bit. This is an intense episode with strong performances and an almost uncomfortable vibe to it. And to highlight just a few of the amazing cast members here, The Shelter stars Larry Gates as our bomb shelter building doctor. He also played a doctor in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers film and had a role in the Burt Lancaster film The Young Savages. And then we have Jack Albertson, probably best known as Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka, but he was also in the Poseidon Adventure. This was yet another episode written by Rod Serling himself, and you can tell it. It definitely has that Serling people are the worst kind of vibe that his episodes often did. Now this episode was actually rushed in the production so that Serling could comment on the prevailing anxieties of the time and the sudden popularity of the bomb shelter. Sorry, I really couldn't find any fun trivia on this one, kinda doom and gloom, much like the episode itself. And number 4 on the list is It's a Good Life, which originally aired on November 3rd, 1961. Directed by James Sheldon, who directed 6 Twilight Zone episodes in total, including one of my personal favorites, A Penny for Your Thoughts, tells the story of a 6-year-old boy who can do anything he wants just by thinking about it. And yeah, it's just as bad as it sounds, with the few remaining adults in town living in constant fear of the boy's childish whims. This is easily one of the series' most iconic episodes, even being remade in the 1983 Twilight Zone film, directed by Joe Dante. And this is another with an exceptional cast, including Cloris Leachman. But the true standout here is a young, pre-Lost in Space Bill Mumy as our superpowered child. This was actually his second appearance on The Twilight Zone, the first being the Season 2 episode Long Distance Call, which was one of the few shot-on-video episodes and quite a good one. And who's to say the two aren't tied together? Perhaps evil ghost grandma gave him superpowers. Really makes you think. The teleplay for this one was written by Rod Serling, but it was based on a short story of the same name by Jerome Bixby, though in the story Anthony is 3 years old rather than 6. And another interesting little tidbit is this one actually got a sequel episode in the 2002 Twilight Zone series. Both Bill Mumy and Cloris Leachman reprised their roles. And in this one, the now-grown Anthony Fremont has a daughter of his own who inherited his powers. And she was played by none other than Bill Mumy's real-life daughter. This was a good episode. A real good episode. And number 3 on the list is Once Upon a Time, which originally aired on December 15th, 1961. Directed by Norman Z. MacLeod, who is probably best known for his comedy work, including films with the Marx Brothers and Bob Hope, Once Upon a Time is one of the most lighthearted Twilight Zone episodes about a grumpy fellow from 1890 who travels in time to the future year of 1961, and soon finds out that 1890 wasn't so bad after all. This is a really fun episode with both comedic and sci-fi elements, and just happens to star silent film legend Buster Keaton as our time-displaced grump. It also features Stanley Adams, who wants to do a little time traveling of his own, and viewers of this channel probably know Adams best as the Tribble salesman from the Star Trek episode The Trouble with Tribbles. Now, Once Upon a Time was one of 16 episodes of The Twilight Zone written by acclaimed author Richard Matheson. And according to Rod Serling, Matheson wrote this one specifically for Buster Keaton. And speaking of something or other, the repairman in the story was played by Jesse White, who would go on to play the old, lonely repairman from the Maytag commercials, which aired from 1967 all the way up to 1988. And on that, let's do something else.
You must not fail, Zero End. This mission is critical. This is a most unusual weapon. It is specially designed for counter-espionage, for Agent Zero M. It's called the Zero M Sonic Blaster. This is why. It fires a massive blast of compressed air, and this tremendous roar is the actual sound. For training purposes, this special delayed action target comes with it. Get Mattel's powerful Zero M Sonic Blaster wherever toys are sold. Remember the password, Zero M.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur or sharpen it to crystal clarity. Over this station, we will bring you the awe and mystery of modern science, which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits. The outer limits.
And we're back with number 2 on the list, and that's To Serve Man, which originally aired March 2nd, 1962. Directed by Richard L. Baer, another Twilight Zone regular with 7 episodes in his name, as well as direction on nearly every episode of Green Acres. Yeah, I mentioned Green Acres, only the most current pop culture references on this channel. To Serve Man tells the story of a friendly race of aliens that come to Earth in a time of great crisis in order to aid humanity and share their advanced tech. And that's all I'm going to say about it. This episode really is one of the finest the series has to offer, and I don't want to spoil a thing. The episode starred Canadian actor Lloyd Bachner as our lead. He did quite a bit of film and TV, including Bewitched, yet again, Battlestar Galactica, and Batman the Animated Series as Mayor Hill. But the real standout here is the aliens, as they usually are. And these helpful Frankenstein-esque Canamites were all portrayed by the 7'2" Richard Kiel, who you probably know as Jaws from The Spy Who Loved Me and Jaws 3D. And this was really an interesting alien design. Plus, he had a goatee. Not saying all aliens need goatees, but you know how it goes. This one was written by Rod Serling based on a short story by sci-fi writer Damon Knight. And in the original story, the Canamites were short, pig-like creatures. There's also a bit of borrowed footage here. The scenes of the flying saucer are taken from the day the Earth stood still, as well as Earth versus the flying saucers. And number 1 on the list, 2, which originally aired on September 15th, 1961. Directed by Montgomery Pittman, who was a writer, director, and actor, 2 is a really unique, post-apocalyptic episode taking place during the aftermath of a great war. 2 lone figures, survivors from each side, find themselves alone in the deserted city. And that is essentially it. It's quiet, with no action, and very little dialogue, and yet it still manages to be both intriguing and engaging. A big part of that too is the cast, which consists of the great Charles Bronson in an early mustacheless role, and a young lady by the name of Elizabeth Montgomery, who was from a little show called Bewitched. And if you've seen my top Twilight Zone Season 2 episode, you know that Bewitched just keeps coming up in regards to the Twilight Zone. Was Bewitched actually set in Rod Serling's world? Well, clearly. As I mentioned, this one was directed by Montgomery Pittman, but it was also written by Pittman himself. In total, he wrote 3 episodes of the series and directed 5, including the classic Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up? And 2 was filmed on a studio backlot that was actually falling apart from lack of use, so very little set dressing was needed for that sexy post-apocalyptic look. And in order to make it appear like the future, a sign was added to the barbershop showing a haircut at a whopping price of $5. Truly one of the best the series has to offer, in my mostly humble opinion. And that's all the time we have this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, and keep it wacky.